Welcome back to my channel. It's early morning in Flagstaff, Arizona, but today the sun rises on something colder than any desert dawn. The courthouse steps are lined with reporters, microphones glinting in the light like weapons. The air crackles, not with gossip, but with judgment. The world thinks this is another polygamous soap opera, another messy breakup, another awkward reunion. They have no idea. Because inside this courtroom, it's not about marriage anymore. It's about power, deception, control, and one invisible villain who built an empire on silence. The double doors swing open, and there he is, Kody Brown, but not the loud, charming patriarch America once knew. Today he's quieter. His confidence looks borrowed. His boots echo across the marble, every step rehearsed. That golden mane, once his pride, looks like a crown slipping from a man who knows it no longer belongs to him. He glances at the gallery once, a twitch in his jaw. The kind men have when they're fighting two wars, one outside, one inside. Then comes Robyn. Soft steps. Perfect posture. Her emotions arranged like props for a jury. Her pastel cardigan. A calculated choice. Comfort color. Empathy bait. She doesn't walk in. She performs. But this audience? It's not buying the act. Behind her, Christine. Calm, composed, the quiet storm. Janelle follows, a fortress in motion, arms wrapped around a 3-inch stack of documents, labeled, organized, deadly. And then, Mary. She doesn't sit immediately. She pauses. A pause so deliberate it feels like punctuation, the kind that ends a chapter. It says, "I know more than you think I do." The bailiff calls the room to order. Case 1174B, The People versus the Brown family. The charges? Emotional exploitation, financial coercion, manipulation by proxy, and perhaps the most dangerous of all, conspiracy of silence. A gasp from the gallery. A reporter drops her pen. Kody's jaw locks, like a door about to slam shut. The judge enters, Judge Albright. A man carved from stone, empathy learned from textbooks. His robe is immaculate, his gaze surgical. "Be seated," he says. And just like that, the room exhales. Wood creaks, paper shuffles, the air turns electric. The prosecutor steps forward. "This," he begins, "is not the story of a broken family. This is the story of a family built to break, strategically, systematically, engineered to fracture while pretending to be whole." The words land like glass shattering in slow motion. A slideshow flickers behind him, birthdays, smiling faces, Christmas mornings, until the images change. Missing children, missing wives, empty seats, cropped hugs, moments stolen in plain sight. This family wasn't divided by distance, the prosecutor says. It was divided by design. Robyn's fingers interlace too tightly. Kody taps his knee. Left, right, left. The rhythm of a man about to implode. Christine's stillness is terrifying. Janelle watches the jury, not the lawyers, because she knows where the real verdict lives. "And Mary? She's not broken. She's calculating." The defense tries to interrupt. "Division isn't a crime," the attorney barks. The prosecutor smiles, just once. "No," he says. "But weaponizing devotion is." The gallery murmurs. The gavel slams. But order? Order left this family years ago. The narration drops lower, darker. "This case didn't start with subpoenas," the prosecutor continues. "It started in kitchens, in ignored texts, in missed birthdays and quiet betrayals, in a family where loyalty was currency, and love came with an expiration date." The screen changes again. This time, therapy records, counseling notes, children's anxiety reports, doctor summaries of sleepless nights and identity confusion, names blurred, but the truth impossible to hide. For the first time, Kody's hand twitches toward his attorney. Not for help, but for anchor. Robyn looks heavenward, fast, not spiritual, just searching. Christine breathes deeper, like someone tasting freedom. Mary swallows the weight of years. And Janelle, she doesn't blink. The judge leans forward. Are we establishing intent or impact? The prosecutor doesn't hesitate. Both, Your Honor, because impact without intent is tragedy. But impact with intent? He pauses. That's architecture. And the courtroom falls silent, because everyone knows this wasn't chaos. It was construction, and the blueprint was signed by Kody and Robyn Brown. The silence in that courtroom wasn't empty, it was alive. Even the fluorescent lights seemed to dim, as if they too didn't want to interrupt what was about to unfold. Imagine a family that believes in forever. Now imagine that same family, but forever only applies if you obey. Where love has terms and conditions. Where affection is revoked like a membership card. Where loyalty earns points, and honesty costs you everything. It wasn't a family anymore. It was a loyalty experiment. The bailiff clears his throat. First witness for the prosecution. But before a name is even spoken, there's a sound. A chair shifts. Not loudly, not theatrically, but it's the kind of sound that carries more truth than a scream. And the courtroom feels it. Everyone does. Because the first blow in this case isn't evidence. It's honesty. But the voice that follows isn't Christine. It's a statement, written by one of the adult children, read aloud by the court clerk. The child's identity remains sealed, but the words have teeth. I grew up watching love get scheduled. Watching my moms compete quietly. Watching parts of myself only be welcome in certain homes. I thought families were supposed to stretch. But our hours shrank, and on purpose. I learned early that honesty didn't make adults proud. Agreement did. So I got good at agreeing. Until I realized I didn't know who I was when nobody was grading my loyalty. The room stills. The court reporter slows her typing. Not from fatigue, but from the weight of what she's hearing. This, the witness statement concludes, isn't a trial about plural marriage. It's a trial about plural truth. And that's when everyone realizes this case isn't just a legal reckoning. It's a generational audit. Kody's jaw tightens. Robyn's lips part, but no sound comes out. Mary closes her eyes, not to escape, but to survive feeling it. Janelle blinks once, slow, steady, absorbing the words like deep water. And Christine inhales, a long, quiet breath, the kind that says, yes. Now say the rest. The defense jumps up. Your Honor! Testimony from anonymous sources can't be cross-examined. Judge Albright doesn't even look up. Continue, he says. The prosecutor steps forward again, voice low but razor sharp. Every broken family, he says, has a moment when the first crack began. But not every crack makes a sound. Some cracks smile. Some send Christmas cards. Some babysit your kids. And some... He turns toward the defense table. And some cracks are treated like queens. Christine finally looks at Kody, just once. A single glance heavy enough to carry 10 years of unsent paragraphs, unscreamed truths, unburied memories. The narration inside the courtroom slows, like oxygen thinning. This isn't a court where wives compete. It's the courtroom where wives compare truths. And somewhere in those comparisons lies the question everyone's been waiting for, the one nobody's dared to ask out loud. The judge rises. Heels click. Papers rustle. Recess, he says. But his words don't sound like relief. Recess doesn't mean resolution, the prosecutor murmurs. It means brace yourself. And just before Judge Albright exits, he pauses, his hand still on the gavel. This court reconvenes, he says, when the truth is ready for its consequences. But the truth isn't waiting anymore. Christine doesn't walk to the witness stand, she arrives at it. There's a difference. Walking is motion. Arrival is declaration. The energy shifts, not visible but felt. Like thunder rolling far away but shaking the ground beneath your ribs. The bailiff raises the Bible. Christine places her hand on it, not for courage, but as proof she's survived enough to stand here without it. I swear to tell the truth, she says. The whole truth and nothing but the truth. No tremble, no quiver. No performance, just clarity, sharpened into sound. She sits. And for the first time, the chair doesn't swallow her. She fills it. Behind her, Robyn forgets to breathe. Kody leans forward, elbows on knees, the posture of a man trying to control something slipping from his grasp. Mary's lips flatten, sealing in the thoughts she's not ready to release. Janelle's gaze flicks from Christine to the jury, like she's watching the truth rearrange itself on a chessboard. Christine exhales slowly, a release decades in the making. The prosecutor approaches. "Mrs. Brown," he begins, "were you loved equally in this marriage?" The pause that follows is microscopic, but it lands like an earthquake. "I was loved selectively," Christine answers. The words don't echo, they pierce. The courtroom doesn't gasp. It thinks. Equal love isn't something you debate. It's something you recognize without needing proof. And in that silence, in that single line, Christine Brown just ended a 20-year illusion with nothing but the truth. The air in that courtroom could have frozen a heartbeat. Kody Brown swallows hard, his Adam's apple trembling like the last defense of a man who's run out of words. Across the room, Christine keeps her eyes forward, not on the judge, not on the jury, but on one person in particular. She doesn't need to name him. The silence already has. The prosecution steps toward the monitor. A photo flickers onto the screen. Warm, familiar, disarming. A Thanksgiving family portrait. Smiles staged. Hands clasped. A myth of unity and glazed in the illusion of happiness. But Christine's voice slices through the stillness. "2 of my kids cried in the car that day," she says quietly. "They didn't understand why love had a schedule. One of them asked me if they did something wrong, because their father never forgot some birthdays. Only theirs." She pauses, a breath not for drama, but for courage. "I told them grown-ups make mistakes," she adds. Later, I stopped believing that. The inhale that follows isn't deep, it's decisive. The kind of breath a person takes before crossing a line they know they can't uncross. "We were ranked," Christine says. She doesn't say Robyn's name, she doesn't have to. The courtroom does it for her, silently, like a choir that finally admits what it always knew. The prosecution paces once, measuring the oxygen in the room, gauging just how much truth the walls can hold before something breaks. Was this ranking spoken or implied? Christine gives a small smile, fractured, tired. "I'd have survived yelling more easily than softness," she says. "When did you realize love had become leverage?" The prosecutor asks. "The day my child apologized for needing attention." That's the moment the courtroom tilts. Emotion doesn't soften her, it steels her. "Rationed love breeds famine, not gratitude," she tells the jury. The defense rises. "Objection, emotional speculation." "Overruled," Judge Albright says coldly. "The emotional landscape is the landscape of this case." Christine doesn't even blink at the interruption. She walks through it like weather. "There came a point," she continues, "when telling the truth cost more than swallowing it. Every day, I had to decide whether honesty was worth the punishment it earned. The distance, the coldness, the silent denial, and the children who felt the echo of my disobedience." The courtroom absorbs the line like scripture. "When you punish a mother," Christine adds softly, "you punish her whole ecosystem." The prosecutor steps back, giving the silence room to breathe, to expand, to hurt. Then he asks almost gently, "Christine, did you ever witness emotional competition between the wives?" Christine nods once. "There were invisible tests," she says. "Tests we didn't know we were taking. And only one person held the answer sheet." Her eyes shift slightly, just enough. Toward Robyn. A pulse flutters in Robyn's throat. A small involuntary betrayal. Kody's jaw hardens. Janelle watches silent, like someone seeing a dam break she's waited years to burst. What happened to wives who failed these tests? Christine's voice barely moves the air. They were emotionally reassigned. Love didn't disappear. It just moved locations. The jury exhales collectively, a quiet, reverent gasp. Some truths don't explode, they sink. The prosecution opens a manila folder. The sound of paper sliding out seems deafening. Christine speaks again, voice thinning but unwavering. "I wasn't trying to accuse. I was trying to soften the consequences of admitting the truth." The judge's gavel cuts through the tension, punctuation on a decade-long sentence. "Give the court an example." Christine nods. "If I said, 'I feel left out,' the answer was always, 'You choose to feel left out.'" Her palms open, empty, surrendering to clarity. The prosecutor steps closer to the jury. The air pulls tight, like a tide drawing back before a wave. "One last question," he says. Christine braces. "I'm not in fear, but in focus. The night I realized leaving wasn't destroying my family," she says slowly, "was the night I understood staying was." The judge calls for recess. Chairs scrape. Shoes scuff. Robyn stands too fast, desperate. Kody stands too slow, defeated. Mary rises with the posture of a woman who's carried secrets in her bones. Janelle touches Christine's elbow. a gesture so small it feels sacred. Christine stands last, unencumbered, weightless. The courtroom exhales, and somewhere in that breath, the truth wakes up. This isn't a pause. It's a point of no return. When the session resumes, Robyn takes the stand. Her hand trembles as she touches the Bible, not from fear, but with the perfect amount of performance. Enough to melt a few hearts in the gallery. She whispers, "I never asked to be chosen more. I only asked not to be loved less." The prosecution raises an eyebrow. "But you were chosen more," he says. "Over years, over children, over holidays. Were you unaware of that?" "I didn't count love like currency," Robyn says softly. "I thought love was expanding, not dividing." "Then help the court understand this." A photo appears. Kody carrying Robyn's children on a hike, smiles wide, shoulders close. Next slide. Christine's daughter trailing behind, dust on her shoes, distance written in her posture. "Did you ever notice the distance?" The attorney asks. Robyn blinks. One tear slips right on cue. She's good at this. Maybe too good. The prosecutor holds up another folder. "Mrs. Brown," he says gently, "did you ever coach Kody on how to respond to the other wives?" The courtroom freezes. Robyn hesitates, too long, too measured. "I don't know what you mean," she says quickly. The jury knows she does. The prosecutor presses, "So you did not benefit from preferential loyalty?" The air vibrates. Mary's throat tightens, a swallowed truth fighting to rise. The attorney leans forward. "Would you be willing to repeat that?" he asks, while looking at the children who felt left behind. Robyn freezes. Silence. Not the kind that protects you, but the kind that exposes you. "I cannot control where love lands," she finally says. The oxygen shifts again. Judge Albright taps his gavel twice. "Intent," he says slowly, "doesn't erase impact." The defense stumbles through papers, trying to find footing where none exists. But the truth isn't waiting for permission anymore. And before anyone can even call her name, Mary Brown is already on her feet. She touches the Bible, not like a shield, but like punctuation. The next chapter is hers. But like punctuation. The next chapter is hers. The prosecutor leans forward, voice calm but sharp, like a blade that's been waiting years to make contact. "Mr. Brown," he begins, "you are not the first husband or the first man the public has believed to be leading this family system. That's not an insult. That's fact." He lets the words sit in the air for a moment, heavy and echoing. "Tell me then, why did the title and the influence never live in the same house?" Across the courtroom, a hush falls. The gallery leans forward. Cameras whisper. Mary tilts her head slightly before she answers. "Titles don't lead families," she says quietly. "Access does." The words land like thunder in a sealed room. Kody looks up, jaw tightening, and for the first time since she took the stand, his confidence wavers. Mary turns her gaze toward the jury. Kody decided who got access. Robyn practiced it. The room inhales as one. Even the air feels aware of what's just been said. Janelle exhales slowly, her face softening like someone watching 1,000 mismatched pieces of a puzzle finally lock into place. Kody's face, once expressive, now freezes. Expressionless, unreadable, a weather system with no forecast. "What did practicing access look like?" the prosecutor asks next. The question lands heavier than a verdict because the truth that follows won't be romantic. It won't even be kind. "This was never a love story," Mary answers. "It was a blueprint." Her words slice clean through years of myth. "I tried to understand it," she continues. "I was competing, not for affection, but for the story about who deserved to have it." A faint tremor runs through the room when she adds, "Because Mary just named it. The invisible battlefield. Legacy." She pauses. "I don't think Robyn woke up every day intending harm, but I think she woke up every day practicing advantage. And advantage has casualties, whether it means to or not." The jurors scribble faster now, as if aware they're witnessing history. "Let me say it plainly," Mary continues, her tone shifting, firmer, grounded. "There was a system, and that system behaved like a living thing." The ceiling feels lower, the air thinner, and somewhere between those words the narrative crown, the one no one officially wore, snaps in two. Christine closes her eyes, almost prayerful. Robyn looks like a door that's just heard its lock turn. The attorney steps forward, lifting an old journal, not theatrically, but reverently, as if holding the family's unspoken scripture. He opens it and reads aloud. "There are rules we don't discuss. There are scores we don't keep publicly. There are people who must applaud, even when they've lost. Silence detonates without sound. Mary's voice softens. I was never afraid of being unloved, she says. I was afraid of being irrelevant. The prosecutor looks up. Mrs. Brown, did you feel erased? Mary hesitates, not from fear, but from respect for old pain. Not erased, she finally says. Repurposed. Brows furrow in the jury box. Explain, the attorney presses. I wasn't removed, she says. I was reassigned from first wife to cautionary tale. From symbol of commitment to a warning of what happens when influence slips. A chill moves through the courtroom. The walls seem to lean in, listening. The prosecutor nods slowly. Did Robyn benefit from that reassignment? Mary's voice stays calm. She inherited the unchallenged lane. And he officiated it, again. Gasps ripple softer this time, darker, resigned. Did you resist? Mary smiles, not bitterly, but with surgical precision. No, she says. I studied it. And in that stillness, she drops the line that rewires the entire trial. I stopped asking why I was no longer queen, and started asking what kingdom I was standing in at all. No one writes that down. Because that isn't testimony, that's transformation. The prosecutor glances up, almost reverent. Do you believe Robyn wanted the crown, Mrs. Brown? Mary shakes her head slowly. No, she says. She wanted the leverage the crown provided. The difference? The attorney asks. Mary lifts her chin. A crown is ceremonial. Leverage is jurisdiction. Robyn flinches, her composure thinning like parchment near open flame. Janelle watches her, eyes calm, as though she's hearing math finally balance. The defense, desperate, rises. Your Honor, this has become psychological conjecture. The prosecutor doesn't even turn. Psychology isn't conjecture when an entire family collapses under its weight. Mic drop, gavel unnecessary. Mary exhales, slow and complete. We didn't collapse because there was too much love, she says. We collapsed because there were conditions around it. When she steps down, she's not the silent wife anymore. She's not even the wronged wife. She's the historian of a dynasty that never learned how to share its own throne. The judge calls a recess, not because the trial is over, but because the room needs oxygen before the next ignition. Because next comes the reckoning no wife could deliver. Next comes the man who believed he wrote the rules. The man who thought charisma could bend a courtroom. The man who still believes he controls the weather, Kody Brown. He doesn't rise. He erupts. The chair screeches back, a sound of instinct rather than choice. He walks, not as a witness, but as a man returning to what he thinks is his stage. I swear to tell the truth, he says. 2 beats too fast, 1 shade too loud. It sounds less like an oath and more like a performance. He sits. The silence is thick enough to touch. If Christine was the storm, and Robyn the atmosphere, and Mary the fault line, then Kody is the illusion that thought it could control them all. Mr. Brown, the prosecutor begins evenly, for the record, do you consider yourself the head of your family? Kody blinks, almost insulted. Of course, he snaps. As agreed. Meaning? Meaning structure, respect order, and consequence, the prosecutor interjects. Kody's throat tightens. You spoke of structure, the lawyer says. Structures have beams that hold weight, and walls that fall when pressure shifts. Who carried the weight, Mr. Brown? I did, Kody fires back, voice sharp. A murmur ripples through the courtroom, part disbelief, part inevitability. The prosecutor raises a hand. How's that? Kody leans forward, his words tumbling too quickly. I loved 4 wives. I raised 15 kids. I navigated emotion, conflict, finances, expectation. Plural marriage isn't for the weak. And I made it work, for decades. The lawyer waits a beat. And when it stopped working, who carried the collapse? For the first time, Kody hesitates. Everyone watches as confidence falters. Everyone had a part in the breakdown, he finally mutters. The prosecutor's voice drops to a whisper. Breakdown is accidental, Mr. Brown, but collapse is structural. Kody says nothing. Behind him, Christine doesn't blink. Janelle doesn't flinch. Mary just breathes, steady, certain, free. And Robyn? She just stares ahead, eyes glassy, expression unreadable. The story has turned. The myth is gone. And for the first time, the man who thought he ruled the weather finds himself standing in the storm he created. The courtroom air feels denser now, like it's carrying the weight of too many unspoken truths. The attorney takes a step closer to Kody, his tone calm, clinical, but heavy with intent. Expectations, he says slowly, are standards. And who determined the standards, Mr. Brown? Kody's lips twist into something that might have once been a smile. I did, he answers, proud but brittle. As head of the family, not partnership. The words drop like cold coins into silence. A monarchy in plural clothing. The attorney nods. Did you ever tell your wives that, for the sake of family peace, their emotional needs should be moderated? Kody straightens. I told them emotions without discipline become weapons. And were you subject to those same rules? The attorney presses. The temperature in the room drops. Kody hesitates, then answers, I carried the emotional weight differently. Translation, rules, exceptions, reserved for upstairs. A few jurors exchange quiet glances. The subtext isn't lost on anyone. The prosecution advances. So yes, Kody admits, his tone now defensive. But in context, I'm not on trial for being a man, he snaps suddenly. That wasn't the question, the attorney says, voice smooth as glass. The question is whether emotional hierarchy existed and whether you enforced it. The lawyer allows himself the faintest smile. The testimony suggests you did. You enforced alignment, accountability disguised as harmony. The family can't absorb your emotions right now. Be responsible. I'll handle everything. The words hang there. They sting. Different wives, different needs. Different wives, same husband. A mic drop disguised as grammar. The prosecutor lowers his tone, drawing him back in. You say you guided the narrative because someone had to. Or, the lawyer interrupts gently, because someone else was beginning to. The words slice through the courtroom like a quiet blade. Robyn freezes. Kody's jaw tightens. No one else could have done it better, he shoots back too quickly. Not the question, the prosecutor replies softly. The question is, were you afraid someone else would do it differently? The silence that follows isn't empty, it's explosive. And then the final question before recess. It lands like thunder. Kody braces as if impact itself has a schedule. The prosecutor doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't have to. When it all fell apart, Mr. Brown, what exactly were you afraid of losing? Kody doesn't answer. He just stands there, motionless, stripped of posture and pretense. He realizes too late what arrogance had protected him from all these years. He lost control the moment they compared notes. Janelle walks past without looking at him. Robyn doesn't meet his eyes. She stares at the floor instead, recalculating loyalty like currency no longer backed by value. The era of explaining himself has begun. When the courtroom reconvenes, it no longer feels the same. It feels like the morning after a storm. Trees still standing, but the ground forever rearranged. This session isn't about accusations anymore. It's about repercussions. The judge wastes no ceremony. The gallery expects another wife, another confession, another dissection of heartbreak. But the next voice is smaller, fragile in rhythm, steady in resolve. Kody stiffens. Robyn's breath catches. Mary braces silently. When I look back, the voice says finally, I don't see a family fighting for love. I see a family learning the cost of having emotions out loud. It's Peyton. He swallows hard. The kind of swallow that belongs to someone who didn't know learning could hurt like grief. It started, he continues, the moment one mom cried louder than the others, and the house adjusted itself around her volume. The courtroom breathes in unison. And what happened to the quieter voices? The prosecutor asks gently. Peyton's jaw hardens, not with anger, but memory. They were told they were strong enough not to need anything. A juror writes it down slowly. This is not evidence. This is inheritance. Christine closes her eyes, not in mourning, but in recognition. Janelle's gaze drops, absorbing the truth like soil taking rain it never asked for. What did adaptation look like? The lawyer asks. Kody's throat moves. He doesn't answer. Peyton speaks instead. He remembered birthdays in groups, not individually. He hugged us collectively, not personally. If he said, I love you guys, it counted as 1, not 15. You can hear pens stop moving. And who had most of your father's time? Peyton doesn't accuse. He doesn't even look at Robyn. The house where emergencies were emotional, he says, was the house that got him fastest. The prosecutor steps forward. So priority was measured by urgency? No, Peyton corrects. By volume. That sentence shifts everything. The room realizes this isn't about childhood. It's about generational design. We weren't pitted against each other, he adds softly. We were sorted. A juror sighs, human, not dramatic. Were you angry? The prosecutor asks. Peyton takes a long pause as if searching for something he misplaced years ago. No, just tired. The prosecutor nods. And what do you want this court to understand about your family that no one has said yet? Peyton doesn't dramatize it. He just says, we weren't abandoned by love. We were abandoned by balance. It takes 3 seconds before a pen moves again. Even the air respects punctuation. The courtroom tilts toward revelation. Because now it's no longer a divorce trial. It's a legacy audit. Mrs. Brown, the prosecutor says, turning toward the gallery. You raised Kody in a plural household. What did you teach him love looked like? She pauses. We taught him harmony required management, not judgment. But we never taught him what to do when the people being managed became human. Janelle nods, recognition passing between mother and son like static. Robyn sits motionless, realizing the roots of this tree she climbed might not hold her weight anymore, and Kody looks like a man reading a biography of himself written by someone who never meant to wound, but also never learned to heal. The trial shifts. Guilt no longer matters, because this was never about division. This was about design. Kody is recalled to the stand. Not as the villain, not as the patriarch, not even as the defendant. The prosecution rises slower this time, the tone reverent. Today, he says, is not about sparring. It's about exposure. Structural exposure. A chart appears, a family map spanning 25 years. Bars rise, color-coded by access to Kody. One towers, Robyn. Another steady but dim, Janelle. One burns bright, then fades, Christine. And Mary, dense with emotion, sparse in return. Kody leans forward, hands clasped, posture collapsed. The family needed stability, he says finally. Robyn provided stability. There it is, stability, not love, not balance. Just predictability. The jury doesn't gasp. They simply understand. The prosecutor paces small circles. These proceedings began under the assumption that one wife benefited unfairly. But what we see now, he says, is that she benefited because the system rewarded mastery of hierarchy, not partnership. Mary watches like someone seeing a lock open to a door she no longer needs. Did he love them equally? The prosecutor asks finally. The question hits like scripture. Kody closes his eyes. When Robyn cried, I moved. When Christine withdrew, I waited. When Janelle stayed steady, I assumed she needed nothing. His voice cracks, not from theater, but from arithmetic catching up with ego. The prosecutor doesn't speak. He lets accountability breathe. And each wife, he says finally, adapted not by nature, but by what your system rewarded. Or punished. The prosecutor turns toward the gallery. His tone softens. This family isn't fractured beyond repair, he says. It's been educated. The gavel falls once, quiet, final. The reckoning, he continues, isn't about guilt anymore. It's about ownership. Because the next session, session 8, will not be about who was harmed. It will be about who dares to rebuild. The judge leans forward, hands folded. You did not agree to the hierarchy, he says gently. You adapted to it. Robyn Brown did not create the system. She mastered it. Christine Brown did not burn the family down. She lit the first exit sign. Janelle Brown did not stop being a partner. She stopped financing dysfunction. The silence that follows feels like rebirth. You confuse leadership with occupancy, the judge says to Kody. You mistook harmony for silence. And authority for architecture. Kody swallows hard. The truth lands heavier than any verdict. No penalty, the judge declares. This court issues only a mandate of awareness. Your reckoning is not legal, it is generational. Kody exhales. I don't want to lead it anymore, he says quietly. I want to relearn it. The judge nods. Then you may finally begin. He strikes the gavel once, not to end the story, but to mark a beginning. Christine walks down the steps first, breathing the desert air like it's the first clean thing she's ever known. Mary pauses, eyes closed, feeling sunlight like truth on her skin. And Kody steps out last, no crown, no script, no stage. Just a man finally realizing that leadership without love was never power at all.